Go ahead and minimize this screen. Excellent connections, what it's saying to me, so that's great. All right, let's do one more double check here. So just getting everything set up, everybody, and let's see here. I've got here 2 minutes ahead of time, so that's great. So you've already got a couple of folks joining on, so welcome, welcome. And let's go ahead and minimize this. So we are live. I'm going to be changing some things here soon. So all right, we are a little early. It's 1:58, so we'll give it just a couple more minutes before we start launching into things. But thanks for joining up today. And sorry for such short notice on the live stream today, but I had some time, so I thought let's do a live stream. We haven't done one in a little while. I've missed doing the regular live streams. Unfortunately, Wednesday afternoons are all tied up every week for me. That's when I was intending on doing live streams. But working with a couple other folks, Wednesday afternoon has worked out. So we're often on Zoom calls and on conference calls. So following up from a conference call to another live stream, not so much. I need more jugs of water. Okay, so 1:59, and let me check one more time, make sure that everything's saying that it's excellent connections. All right, good. So connections looking good, so we're just about ready to go. We have been having some windstorms here today in Prescott, so if the network gets a little flaky, that's most likely why. All right, so we've got everything up on screen, and yes, there are spreadsheets today. But before we talk about the spreadsheets, number one, thanks for stopping in, everybody. I hope that you enjoyed today's video. And my name is Rich. I'm the channel host, and we usually talk about drones, building your small drone and imaging business, and different tech talk here and there. In today's case, we're going to talk about something that's been on my mind now for a couple of weeks as we've been working on the business and discovering some new things. And today I wanted to talk about building your small drone business around the Apple ecosystem. So this is a new one for me. I've never recommended Windows or Apple or anything on this channel. I've been an OS X user for a long time. I've also been a Windows user for an incredibly long time. But I was thinking about costs and what it takes when you first start building your small drone business. Let's say you've gotten your Part 107 recently, you've got a couple ideas as to what you'd like to do with your business, and you need some tools beyond just the drone, of course. We've got all of our post-processing that comes after the drone. So while we're out in the field, maybe for 1/3 of our time doing a job for a client, the other 2/3 of our time are spent back in the office processing things on desktops and laptops, whatever we have. And I've been thinking about doing a higher end 3-dimensional modeling box. And hey, Easy Arrow, good to see you today. Thanks for stopping in. But so I've been thinking about, do we build a whole new Windows system for mapping and modeling? Do we go with what we've got right now? And I'd say since the start of January, I've been looking into some things like, number one, Metashape, one of the 3D modeling applications I use. Metashape has now been released for the Apple Silicon M1, and we've got the Apple up here on screen. We won't spend too much time with them. But so knowing that Metashape is working on the Apple M1s, and then doing a deep dive into WebODM recently, it's come to my attention that, hey, you know something, while there are some pretty hefty system requirements on some of the 3D modeling applications out there, the Mac ecosystem, the Apple ecosystem with the new M1 chips and what's coming in the future here, March 8th, can actually do a really good job of running models. So I've been testing with Metashape, I've been testing with WebODM, but on top of that, I've been thinking about costs. I've been thinking about what it takes for you, the new drone operator, to get up and running. And like I said, it's not just the drone, it's additional hardware and software for post-processing. So then I started thinking about my own experience in getting the Mac Mini M1. Now, for a couple of years, I'd been pretty unhappy with Apple. I couldn't swap out my RAM. I couldn't, put a new battery in, simple things. I couldn't, install a new SSD, and it was starting to get a little demoralizing with the Mac side. When they came out with the M1s, however, and I've had an entire year of experiencing the M1 now, I'm feeling okay, and I can forgive a couple things with Apple, because what they've produced in these Mac Minis and what they're producing with the new M1 chips is pretty amazing, and I'm able to do things that I couldn't do on some of my larger systems, which is kind of incredible. So when I first went out to get the Mac Mini last year, February of last year, the intention was to build a system that was going to be used specifically for doing live streams like this, for doing video with Final Cut Pro, and for doing my still imaging and 360 imaging. So Lightroom, Photoshop, PT and a couple other things as well. And so I spec'd it out really low because I didn't know what to think last year. So in 2021, when I was looking into the Apple M1, I went with the lowest spec possible. So the one here in the left-hand column, this is what you're watching me on right now. And this is what I do a lot of the recordings and editing with as well. So I went super low end just to see what it was. And in going super low end, I got the 8-core CPU, 8-core GPU with only 256 gigs of storage. Let me go kill the audio over on that machine. Sorry about that. And so it ran me a whopping $699. It's my first sub $1,000 machine in a long time. You know, actually, it's my first sub $2,000 machine in a long time. And it's worked out fantastic. So doing the videos, doing the live streams here, doing the stills, doing all that, this thing has been absolutely lightning fast. It's been shocking, especially the small package that it comes in. Now, as I started diving into WebODM, more testing with Metashape, and several other packages which we're going to talk about, I realized, whoa, I went way too low on that 256 gigs of storage, and I've been sitting around thinking about upgrading to the next step up with the 512 storage, but I'd also be bumping the RAM from 8 gigs to 16 gigs. And if I were to do that, let's just go select this really quickly here. And if I were to do that, and let's just switch that to 16 gigs of memory, the price of this is going to be, let's see, it's $1,099, but what am I not seeing here? So it, for some reason, didn't calculate that for me, but the bottom line is it comes out to $1,100 if I'd like to go for the higher end one. So in here, I've actually made a sheet today. So like I said, yay, spreadsheets. First item. So this is everything that basically we're using and doing right now, but I just wanted to tally this up to share with you to make you think about, you know, maybe the Apple environment might work for my drone business. So in the top row here, we've got the price of this is $10.99. It's a platform for photography, video, 2D modeling, 3D modeling, now mapping and modeling, the tutorials and the live streams. And, you know, everything is in one single platform, so that's great. So if we were totaling up, all right, what's this gonna cost us on the post-processing backend here to get up and running with a decent platform that's gonna serve a lot of needs for us? And hey, Corey, it shows 10. Okay, so I'm being blind. Thanks, Corey. Oh, by the way, how's the audio? Are we sounding okay? A little too much echo or doing just fine? Let me know there. I'll watch over to the watch over to that one. Now, so my intention when I was building the spreadsheet this morning was to make a reasonably priced system for you that you could utilize across the board. So if you're needing to do video production with your drone work, if you're needing to do simple modeling, simple mapping, still images, 360s, that we could cover all the bases. So let's head back onto that one. Oh yeah, there's the $10.99, Corey. I am just out of it. It's been a while since we've done a live stream, so working with no net, folks. All right, so anyways, there's our big expenditure. And quite frankly, the price of this is less than my drones and probably a little cheaper than your drones. Audio is fine. Thanks, Corey. Awesome. So, like I said, this system is cheaper than most of the drones on the market now when we're getting into commercial work. And so can this system cover all of our bases? Well, the next thing I stepped into last week, or maybe it's been a week and a half now, I talked about some of the open source applications out there. So, you know, audio is clear. Thanks, Easy360. So we started talking more in depth about open source software, and I've been a big proponent of open source for a long time. I'm a WordPress user, and way back in the day, WordPress started out as, the open source content management system. So I've been aware of a lot of these open source applications, but I wanted to show you where, you can still create good deliverables for your clients at a reasonable cost. So I decided to highlight, because I know a lot of people don't like paying that $10 a month subscription to Adobe. But that's not horribly priced compared to some of the other licensing out there. And that's the Adobe Photoshop and Lightroom suite, which we absolutely use here. And it's my #1 photo management platform is Lightroom. But are there other open source options out there? Of course. So while we're building this system for your drone business, let's go ahead and say we're going to select GIMP for our photography. And that costs a whopping $0 as an open source platform. So I actually set all of this up for us ahead of time, as we're going to be talking through several of these. Like I said, I covered some open source previously, but now we're utilizing it to build up a system where we can deliver to our clients our drone work. So GIMP has been around for a long time. I think probably 2002 is my first exposure to it, when I was trying to avoid paying Adobe as well. See, I even did it. But so photo editing can be accomplished very easily by using GIMP, open source. And in this system, if we're trying to keep our costs down, there's a bit of a learning curve with GIMP. It's not exactly the same as Photoshop, of course, but there's a great community behind this with a lot of great instructional material. So if you're looking for a free option for your image editing, here we go, GIMP. And it can do what Photoshop does. So after GIMP, let's see, what's the next thing that we want to load on a system? Well, since we've been doing the deep dive, and let's see, audio is clear. Since we've been doing the deep dive recently on WebODM, this is something I didn't think I was going to be putting on this tiny little Mac Mini. I don't have a lot of storage space on it. It's not a big drive. I'm using it specifically for these videos, these live streams, these stills, and yet here I go adding WebODM to the system. Now, WebODM is also another open source application. By the way, just to let you know, we're getting close to wrapping up our new course on WebODM. We'll be putting up an announcement here, because there's not a lot of things pulled together out there on the net, a full look through utilizing WebODM. So actually, I'm on the WebODM Lightning Network. My apologies for that. Let's just go to the regular WebODM. And there we go, Open Drone Map. So this is open source as well, and this is also free if you want to do the manual installation. So you're going to need to do some command line stuff. Now, for those of us who have worked with Unix platforms for decades now, yes, going through the manual install and putting it on the Mac or on the Windows, it's doable from the command line. But two things. So #1, WebODM is a great platform for learning on if you're just starting out and you don't have a lot of money to run out and purchase a Metashape or a Pix4D or any of these types. It's nice to support these open source developers as well. So for a whopping $57, you can generate 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional models. If you've been following along with the channel, you have seen the orthomosaics coming out of this are spot on. They're comparable to Maps Made Easy. We've done some testing with that. They're comparable to what I get out of Metashape. I haven't tested side by side with Pix4D, but supporting this open source platform for $57, single download fee, and then you can reinstall it on additional machines over time. It's a no-brainer. Go ahead and give them the $57 and have an easier installation yourself. All right, next up here, QGIS. So I've used ArcGIS over the years, back in the 90s, early 2000s, and then 2012 to 2014 as well. So I am familiar with GIS systems. I hadn't played too much with QGIS, but tying together, let's say, our orthomosaics with an actual mapping application where we can actually do a lot more, QGIS is also a whopping $0. So far, I spent $57 for you and then $1,099 on the computer, right? So we're saving money. So anyways, here is QGIS. Once again, another open source application. Right down here, we've got a download now. I've been exposing the folks on the Patreon channel to some bites of QGIS here and talking about how we can take things from WebODM into QGIS, making this whole modeling solution for ourselves from our flight to presentation. So I've been having a lot of fun reliving the glory days back when I worked with ArcGIS as part of my job. But working with QGIS, it does seem a little overwhelming. There's a lot of tools and a lot to learn. We're going to be putting some simple series together here as well about this, because I think that you need to know about it. So once again, QGIS has rung in for $0, so we're still saving money here. From QGIS, it's us here right now. We're doing a live stream. I'm using OBS, and OBS is actually doing all the streaming for me. I also use it for doing a lot of my tutorials. Now I've got it minimized down here because I hate the picture in a picture kind of feel, but I'm just going to pull this up for a moment. So this is OBS, which is an open source live streaming platform and video recording platform. So this has been great for doing the classes and sharing what we know here with you guys. I'm going to say it wasn't a hard learning curve with OBS. There are still a lot more things I can do with this. We can get really fancy with the intros and things. And so maybe down the road we'll do that, you know, when I've got a couple hours to really noodle over it. So once again, $0 here on what you could do recordings for tutorials for your clients. Maybe you want to do some screen recordings of work you've done for your clients, or maybe you want to get onto YouTube and start talking about drone work as well. Absolutely. There's always room for new people in there, without a doubt. Next item. So I'm not calling this open source, but we've got DaVinci Resolve. So this is one of the big three when it comes to video editing. So I am a Final Cut Pro user. I've had a Final Cut license for many years now. But DaVinci Resolve, you can download this right now for free. I'm bringing you down here just to show you. So DaVinci Resolve, free download. Then they have an extended version for DaVinci Resolve Studio, and that is $295. So $300 for that license. And that's actually what I paid for Final Cut Pro as well, was $300 for my license several years ago. They've never dinged me for another licensing fee, so it seems like once you've got it, it's yours. Now, Jody has actually been working with DaVinci Resolve for a few weeks now, so one of these days we'll get her on here and talk to her about her experience with it. And she is also running it on an iMac M1 chip as well. So she did an upgrade a couple months after me last year. But so once again, I haven't spent any more money on you for a full video package for doing video editing. You've got DaVinci Resolve right there. So we're still saving some money. The next item down that I put in here was MeshLab. So MeshLab is another open source platform that helps us with our 3D models. And there are several platforms out there for that. Let me just pull this back up. So into MeshLab, open source system for processing and editing 3D triangular meshes. Well, guess what our point clouds come out to be. So once you're done with the point cloud, you can actually do some more work with that point cloud and the meshes, I should say, in MeshLab. So there's another tool for us. And while I've been doing my WebODM testing, I have been dissatisfied occasionally with a couple of my 3D models, and we're still figuring out how to tweak WebODM well, but I have taken some of those models, put them into MeshLab, and actually cleaned some things up a little bit. So once again, let's double check that price that I had linked there for. Oh yeah, it's $0 still. Okay. So, and finally, I've also got Blender up here, and there's a lot more open source software out there, but let's pull up Blender really quick. And just to let you know, there are a lot of people. I've got a friend who actually does game development over in the UK. And so he's been somebody who's been using Blender for quite a while. And once again, Blender, open source. So another free application again. And so Blender is there for us for doing 3D modeling as well. So let's go back to our spreadsheet because we love spreadsheets and, you know, PowerPoint presentations. Those are awesome too, right? All right, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 software options for different purposes. And we've only spent $57 so far in this walkthrough here. The $57 was on WebODM just for convenience, getting their downloader and automatic installer because we don't want to do the command line if we don't have to. So far we've got 1,100 spent on the Mac Mini, and we've got another $57 spent. So, you know, we're still sub $1,200. Now, let's talk a little bit about our drone applications as well, because we all do use autonomous flight applications when we're doing 2D and 3D modeling work. So I have multiple options for myself. I have paid for Map Pilot Pro, $150 for the year, and that's drone data capture in the field. The pricing for it is a per year license. So then I have the little notes for myself. So this is right now iOS only. If that's changed or anything, please drop a note in the comments and let me know that, hey, Rich, you're off. The next one, Ground Station Pro. So you could spend $150 on Maps Made Easy's Map Pilot. You don't have to. There are still several others out there. Ground Station Pro, I've been using it for several years. It's an iPad only app, not iOS, iPad only. Strange decision on DJI's part. So that is $0. They do have a couple of upgrades in it for a couple of more features that you most likely won't need, but you can do your flight planning and flight execution for your 2D and 3D models with Ground Station Pro, just like you can with Map Pilot. So free on that one. Litchi, so that's what I use for creating waypoint paths, doing more cinematic videos passing through our construction sites, and adding in waypoints for still images, as well as adding in waypoints for video. And it also does a pretty good job of 360-degree aerial images from your drone as well. So a whopping $29.99, so 30 bucks there. But, you know, it does have value there. Next one is Drone Harmony. This is another flight app. They do have a free non-commercial if you're just learning about Drone Harmony. They're primarily Android app, but if you haven't been to the App Store lately and you pop on by the App Store, the Apple App Store, you're going to find a Drone Harmony app because they're starting to push out an iOS version of Drone Harmony. It's still in the early stages, but we've already got Drone Harmony now available to us from Android and from iOS. Wow. You know, most of these vendors don't do Android and iOS. That's a pretty big one. Now, if you want to get into the commercial side of things after you've done your learning with Drone Harmony, they do have different tiers. So you're storing your flights and your missions in the cloud, so that does cost something. So they have, it's $33 per month on a yearly basis if you want that one. But so when you're doing your testing, when you're doing non-commercial stuff, you can try these things out for free with them at first. So there we go. There is, of course, Pix4D Capture, which goes along with Pix4D, which is another 2D and 3D model rendering application, which I've tested previously. And Pix4D's capture application, when you use it to capture images in the field, you can offload it to anything. So you can take the images from Pix4D's capture and you can run them through WebODM or Metashape or Maps Made Easy, whatever you'd like to do. Drone Deploy has their own capture app as well. That's another one that is also $0. So we're still saving some good amounts of money here. And finally here, I put these in red because these are the spooky pay for things, which are not necessary. So as we've gone through all of this, you should be getting the idea, wow, I can actually do most of this stuff for free. So Photoshop and Lightroom, I'm a subscriber. $10 a month is not a crazy fee. I've seen a lot of other companies out there advertising different photographic editing tools. And while they're not doing the subscription, which everyone seems to be very offended by from Adobe, they are willing to pay $89 a year, and every year they seem to have to upgrade those software applications. So it kind of feels like a subscription to me. But, you know, in the end, take it or leave it. You don't have to use Photoshop and Lightroom. The reason I'm so into Lightroom is because of the management aspects of it. So I find managing catalogs with several thousand images very easy thanks to the tools in Lightroom. But if we don't want to use Photoshop and Lightroom, we do have GIMP right back up at the top there, $0 once again. Kino, so this is a management platform for my videos. So Kino is a management platform that works with DaVinci Resolve, works with Adobe Premiere Pro, and works with Final Cut Pro. So one of the first things that we put on Jody's system is Kino as well, so that she could manage all of her video clips easily. So $159 for the license, and I have done one new license upgrade with them. They go very long periods between charging a new upgrade fee. So a lot of their updates are free for quite some time, and if there is a new charge for a new one, they do also offer upgrade pricing. And finally, so I put standard Metashape in here. Standard Metashape does not do orthomosaic or digital elevation models. It does 3D models. The dense point cloud, the texture, the mesh, and your model. So if you are learning about doing 2D and 3D modeling and capturing data sets with your drone, the Metashape standard is going to get you a long way to getting comfortable with the Metashape interface, and will prep you down the road for when you want to get Metashape Pro if you do. And I think that's a single license fee of $3,500. But in the meantime, while you're learning and doing, you can always go back to WebODM and to generate your 2D and 3D models. But I threw Metashape in there because it's also a valuable resource. Now, the things that we just added here, so I summed this table up, and everything that we added here with the higher end Mac Mini, so with 512 gigs of storage space and with 16 gigs of RAM, and still the M1 chip, the 8 GPUs, the 8 CPUs, etc. If we were to pay all of this right now, we're coming in at $1,793, or yeah, $93.99, of course. Now, if we were to take out, let's see here, let's go ahead and remove that one, and remove that one. So now we're just talking about the Mac M1. We're talking about all of the open source platforms that we've just gone through. We're talking about, well, the flight applications don't mean much in this, but we did include the price of MapPilot. We included the price of Litchi there. So we're coming in sub $1,500 for a platform that absolutely, through my own testing here, absolutely can process an image set of 335 images for modeling one of my client locations. So the more RAM that you have, the more you can process with WebODM. But we also have some things that we can tweak through desktop, or for Docker desktop, where we can get even a little more out of the system. So what I've been sitting back thinking about, because the platform that I have over here, this little mini that's sitting down here, the intention was video and stills and live streams like this. That was the intention. That's why I went with 256 gigs of drive space. Had I known that WebODM would perform so well on Silicon, and that Metashape would perform so well on Silicon as well, I would have went with the 512 gigs of storage and the 16 gigs of RAM, so bringing me in at 1100. I never had an intention of running any kind of mapping and modeling platform on this box. So now I'm kind of really hit myself hard when it comes to drive space remaining. So we have a little over 100 gigs of drive space on this. And my thinking has been, all right, for the modeling box and, you know, for some of the post-processing work, maybe we step into that next step up. Now, the big thing is there's been a lot of leaks over the past week, and we do know that there is going to be an Apple presentation, sounds like March 8th. Sounds like there's going to be a newer version of these minis. So, while I've been really keeping myself from just picking up the next one, knowing that there's going to be some new announcements on March 8th leaves me waiting. So I'm going to wait and I'm going to watch for their upcoming conference. I'm going to see what they have to say about their new models out there, but it sounds pretty firm that we're going to see a newer version of the Mini, that we're going to see a more powerful chip in there than what we're at with the current M1. And if that's the case, some of the speculation has been that the lower end version of this is going to be coming in at about 1200 to 1300. So I want to see how much more they're giving us on this. But if I were to do that, this would still be a sub $2,000 setup with all the software that I need. So once again, we've got photo editing software, GIMP, WebODM, so 3D modeling software, QGIS for actually overlaying some of this stuff on maps and doing some map verification and validation as well. OBS, if you want to start streaming like this or doing your own tutorials, absolutely do it. Get in touch with me if you need any advice if you're just starting out with this. DaVinci Resolve, our full-on editing solution for video. MeshLab, so for doing our meshes on our 3D models. And of course, Blender too. Talk about a learning curve, right? There is a lot to learn in this. A lot of drone operators don't go into this kind of depth where they start playing with Blender and MeshLab and QGIS. But I want to give you as much information as possible here on this channel whenever I can. And so I wanted to mention all these because maybe you're going to get super interested in 3D modeling and animation, and you're going to start looking into Blender, and maybe you can utilize some of your own data and locations to go together with your own projects for a MeshLab and a Blender. Who knows where this could lead you, but one big thing in life is never stop learning, right? So that's what I wanted to share with all of you that, it's been running through my head just this morning, and actually over the past couple of weeks, I've been saying to myself, I don't think I need to build that large platform that I was thinking of on Windows. And nothing against Windows, by the way. So in the 90s, I was all Windows all the time, and I was actually not a proponent of the old Apple back then. It was only in 2002 when OS X hit that I said, you know what? This is a beautiful graphic user interface, and it's running on top of a flavor of Unix. So it's another one of those Linux-like systems. I think it was FreeBSD is what it was. I'd have to go look that back up. But so yeah, for today's live stream, I wanted to share with you that you can, in fact, start modeling, mapping, and doing all these other things on a tiny little package that comes in at a super reasonable price. If I were you, I would hold on as well. Wait for that March 8th event, see what they're coming out with, how that's going to affect any other prices, and if it could speed your workflow along. So as I've said, I haven't run up against any real walls with this thing yet. No crashes in Final Cut, no crashes in Lightroom or Photoshop, no major issues with WebODM or open broadcasting software. So none of that has happened yet. So with that in mind, if you're thinking about building out your system for your drone business and you haven't decided on things yet, maybe take a second and look at these silly little boxes and consider how fast these are and how time-saving that is. You don't want to sit around waiting for models to render and waiting for videos to render. On the old iMac 2017, I could walk around the yard a couple times, visit with neighbors, run down the street, come back, and things still weren't done transcoding. On this lowest end, keep in mind, I went for the lowest end Mini possible when I did that purchase last February. And that thing was $699. So let's do the buy one more time. So, I haven't dealt with prices like this on a computer in a long time. Yeah, there we go, $699. So the low end one has been doing great for me, except for storage space. We've got external SSDs, of course, so that's one way to deal with it. But I think I want the 512 drive. I know I want the 16 gigs of RAM, and I'm very curious as to what the announcements will be on March 8th. So I'll be staying tuned and I'll let people know on channel here. So just taking a look over. So if anyone's got any questions or comments here, see the chat's been a little quiet because I'm going to be getting ready to wrap this up here momentarily. But if anyone has anything, feel free to pipe up before we wrap this one up. So once again, this is just for your consideration. Like I said, we're not pro Windows or pro Mac. What I am pro is time savings and being able to get my job done with some powerful and useful tools. You can build basically, you know, a 99% open source platform here for yourself to get your drone work done in a timely fashion, and the products that you're delivering to your clients will wow them. All right, everybody, looks like we don't have any other questions for the day, so I'm going to wrap this one up. Like I said, this was kind of an impromptu one, so I didn't give a lot of notice on channel, and I kind of figured we wouldn't have a ton of people on, but I am glad for everyone who stopped by. I hope this information was useful. Be sure to like and subscribe down below, and then you'll be notified when new things come up. And also, you can pop by classes.azdrone.net to check out the classes we have. And also, we do have a Patreon channel, and the Patreon channel is just my name, Rich Charpentier. We've got a pretty active community. We've got a Discord server, and we're all looking to help each other grow into our businesses. So if you haven't checked out the Patreon channel, I'd suggest stopping by. It's also way down in the show notes below. There's a clickable link in there as well. All right, everyone, we'll see you again really soon, and I hope you have a great rest of the week and that everything's been a good start to your year. So far, so good here. We'll see you again real soon. End the stream.